They said no one could survive more than 3 hours on that ridge. Not with the sun cracking rock like porcelain, not with the mines buried under every fourth stone, and definitely not with the Moran spotters tracking every movement across the pass. But Sergeant Rhea Halden had already made it to Hour 4. She lay motionless, half buried in the shale of the Kavalar Highlands. Her body pressed into the earth like it had grown there. The Griffin X7 sniper rifle rested beside her, its matte black frame faded from years in the field. The barrel wrapped in burlap, heat tape, and instinct. Her cheek welded to the stock, her eye trained through the scope. Every breath was deliberate, every muscle still. Her world shrunk to a single arc of visibility and the convoy crawling through it. Beside her, hidden beneath a sliver of overhang, Corporal Mason Thorne adjusted his spotting scope. Wind 6 knots, east by southeast. He whispered, "Temps climbing 113 and rising. Convoy's 5 minutes ahead. Rydell's third vehicle." Rhea didn't answer. She was already dialing the wind, adjusting for heat distortion. Her breath tasted like copper and dust. Movement. Thorne murmured suddenly. "Ridge 2 south, one figure, low profile, dressed like a herder, but something's off. You seeing it?" She shifted slightly half an inch and brought the figure into view. The man wore loose robes and a head wrap, but his gait was too deliberate, too squared. And most of all, he kept glancing up the ridge, not down at goats. Then she saw it, a handheld radio. 1,000 yards, slight rise. "He's got comms," she murmured. Thorne replied, "ROE says we need confirmation of hostile intent." Rhea didn't flinch. Her finger eased into the trigger well. The man below paused, lifted the radio, began speaking rapidly in Moran dialect. "That's hostile enough," Thorne said. Voice clipped. "Send it," Rhea whispered. The Griffin X7 barked once deep, sharp and final. The muzzle brake kicked fire and heat into the mountain air, through the scope. She watched the man crumple. His radio tumbled end over end, landing in a patch of dust and silence. But the stillness didn't last. Rhea didn't feel triumph. She felt something else, something colder. That was too clean. She said. Thorne was already scanning. "No movement. Wait, fresh tracks. Heavy. Leading off the main road, and hold up, Rhea." She followed his gaze and saw it. A silver filament, no thicker than a shoelace, stretched across the convoy's path chest height to a vehicle's antenna, not connected to an IED, connected to a transmitter. "Trigger wire," she shouted into her comm. "Convoy. Abort, too late." The lead vehicle clipped the wire. The world exploded. A column of flame tore the valley open. The first Humvee disappeared. The second flipped, and the shockwave hit the ridge like a hammer. Rhea saw her rifle spin away. Then Mason's body flung sideways, his neck bent wrong. Then everything went white. The blast scattered her body. But what rose after wasn't just a soldier. When Sergeant Rhea Halden finally stopped tumbling, her body slid into a shallow ravine, more scraped stone than shelter. She tasted blood, felt her shoulder scream. Something was torn. Maybe fractured. Maybe shattered. Didn't matter. Pain was just another kind of weather. Above her, black smoke clawed at the sky. Below, the convoy burned across the Kavalar Valley floor like a funeral offering. She blinked through dust. Rydell's vehicle flipped on its side, leaking fuel and flame. Figures moved toward it, fast, clean, no panic, no shouting, not militia, not looters, Moran rebels, wolves with blueprints. She tried reaching for her sidearm. Her right arm twitched, then stopped. The radio gone, maybe down the ridge, with the rest of her gear and Mason's body. She saw them reach the third vehicle, saw them pull survivors from the wreckage. Rydell bloodied, breathing, unconscious, zip-tied, hooded, and marched toward the cliffs. They weren't just killing, they were extracting. Rhea shut her eyes, just long enough to feel the burn. She took a breath so deep it felt like being stabbed from the inside. Then she moved. Inches. Tried to stand. Failed. Her legs buckled. Her head spun. Gravel dug into her knees. She bit down on her tongue so hard she tasted copper and dirt. A voice rose in her head. Not her own. Her grandfather's, afraid of heights good. Means you still want to live. He used to say that when she was 6, climbing boulders behind his cabin. A former mountain recon scout. Wrists like bark, eyes like ice. He taught her how to fall, and more importantly, how not to. Now that voice came back. You can die here, or die pulling him out. Pick one, she chose. The Griffin X7 was gone, buried under a ton of rock, but her Vega M9S was still holstered. 3 spare mags, survival pouch somehow intact. Inside gauze, water, compact scope. She tore open a field dressing with her teeth, pressed it against the gash above her eye. Not fatal, but head wounds bleed like hell. No trail, no mistakes. Through her compact scope, the picture sharpened. The rebels moved in pairs. Tactical formation, 12 total, all armed, their leader tall. Scarred along the jawline, gave clipped orders in Marani. Not guessing, coordinating. She spotted Rydell again, awake now, struggling. They were leading him toward a canyon trail that vanished into stone veins. Once he disappeared down there, he was gone. She descended, shadow to shadow, stone to stone. Her ghillie suit snagged on rock, but she didn't stop. Every foothold tested, every glance calculated. They called her Ghost Line for a reason. Now they'd remember why. The heat pressed down, 113 and climbing. Sweat stung her eyes, mixed with blood and memory. Still she moved. She reached a ridge 200 yards from the wreck, close enough to see them pack documents into black sacks. One rebel shouldered a long weapon, not a rifle, a Russian-made SAM. Her stomach clenched to stone. They weren't just vanishing. They were planning to bring down anyone who followed. She pulled her survival radio, clicked channels, static, again, nothing. The mountains had swallowed the signal, just like they'd swallowed Mason, just like they'd try to swallow her. She was truly finally alone. But her boots still gripped the rock, and her shadow still moved forward. The rebels began to move tight formation, disciplined steps. General Rydell, gagged and zip-tied, was forced into the center of their column like a prize animal. From her vantage point, Sergeant Rhea Halden watched them disappear into a narrow canyon, one that carved deep into the Kavalar spine like a surgical scar. She had maybe 10 minutes. After that, even satellites wouldn't be able to find them. She started moving. The trail was barely wide enough for a single body. Ancient, eroded by centuries of flash floods and war. Each step was a gamble, crumbling sandstone. Hidden dips, stone fangs that waited to twist an ankle or worse. 50 feet below, the rocks waited like teeth. Rhea didn't slip, didn't rush, didn't breathe louder than the wind. She had hunted through worse, but never alone. The canyon walls rose like rib cages of some prehistoric beast, casting everything in a tomb-like dusk ahead. She heard them, voices echoing off stone impossible to judge distance. She caught snatches of the Miran tongue. Orders, timetables. They were on schedule, like this had been rehearsed after 30 minutes of shadow stalking. The path widened. Rhea pressed herself against the cliff wall and raised her scope. What she saw chilled her. The canyon opened into a natural amphitheater, ringed by vertical cliffs that formed a fortress by design or accident or both. And there it was, the Black Well, a compound carved from the living rock, high walls, guard towers, heavy weapons, ancient and functional like some kind of holy place turned war machine. At least 20 more fighters milled around the perimeter. She counted quickly. That made over 30 total. Armed with modern gear and Vaskir 11 turret guns mounted on swivels. One shot from those would tear through a truck. Or a man. She found Rydell, dragged across the courtyard like a rag doll, beaten, staggering, alive, barely. Rhea ducked back into the stone and steadied her breathing. One sidearm, 3 mags, no radio, no team. But she wasn't here to fight a war. She was here for one man, and she was ghost line trained. The sun dipped low, casting the walls in molten red. By the time the stars came, she had already begun what the military called a leader's recon. Silent, still, observing everything. The black well had only one approach, a winding trail down the eastern rim. Shaped like a serpent's spine, it was a death funnel. Motion sensors lined the walls. The gate was a kill zone, but Rhea wasn't planning a frontal assault. She was planning a hunt. She mapped the rotation patterns. Sentries swapped every 2 hours. The Vaskir crew rotated every hour, leaving a 7-minute gap during changeover. Most importantly, she found it a blind spot in the western wall, shaded by natural rock, one their night vision didn't cover. As she prepared her path, she encountered a sentry posted alone on a narrow ledge. Young, focused outward, humming to himself. Her combat knife slipped into her hand. She moved close, then saw it taped to the rifle stock a photo, a woman cradling a baby. The boy kept humming, a lullaby. Rhea froze. She could kill him. One thrust. Up under the ribs, into the heart. But she didn't. She leaned just close enough to whisper, voice like wind, "You've got a few hours to leave this world, or this world's gonna leave you." And she vanished into the dark, even as she scaled the vertical chimney, even as she reached the crates overlooking the courtyard. She kept thinking, that boy could be the one who spots me before first light, the one who ends this. Not fear, not guilt, just the weight of the choice. She reached the top, slid into cover, checked her watch, 0347 hours. The general was still breathing, and the ghost was still hunting. Rhea Halden knew the clock was ticking. If the rebels planned to execute General Rydell, it would be before first light, before the skies could see them, before the satellites could guess where the trail vanished. She had maybe 3 hours. So at 0029 hours, she moved. Not like a soldier, like something quieter, older, like a story no one finishes telling. From her pouch, she pulled a torn paracord mason thorns. It had snapped clean during the blast. She tied it tight around her forearm like a vow. He didn't make it. She would. Her blade slid into her palm. 7 inches, matte black, etched along the spine, just visible in the moonlight, clear the line, the ghost line motto. Tonight. It was more than that. It was the only command left. The first obstacle was motion sensors. Rhea had danced with these ghosts before Iraq, Dakar Ridge, the border tunnels in Barassa. They tracked fear, not control. So she moved with the stillness of old stone. 3 feet, freeze, a minute, repeat. By 0312, she reached the compound's western ledge, a sliver of sandstone barely the width of her boot. Below her 60 feet of wind and rock. Ahead, the black well's heart. She pressed into the wall and moved sideways, shoulder to stone, foot by foot. Each breath sounded too loud, each heartbeat, a hammer, halfway across. She stopped. A guard tower jutted from the rock like a rotten tooth. Inside a sentry, not young, not soft. An older man slumped against the post, boots untied, bottle in hand, chin on chest, not asleep, drained. Rhea drew her blade, watched, waited. He stirred, blinked toward the canyon, then back down. His hands were trembling, not from cold. She moved past him, not mercy, just priorities. The ledge ended at a vertical split, a chimney in the stone. She climbed, slow, careful, silent. Only once did her grip falter. She paused, forehead against the rock, breathed in the dust. Heard her grandfather's voice from the old Colorado climbs. So jo kao la ju tot, no ju chow song. Then she climbed again. By 0346, she was crouched behind a stack of crates, inside the black well, unseen, through the slats. She watched the courtyard. Movement everywhere, gear checked, weapons loaded. But this wasn't routine patrol. It was acceleration. Whatever they planned, it was close. She scanned patterns, angles, blind spots. The way sound rebounded off stone. She could feel the pressure in her bones. This place could kill her, but it could also hide her. She checked her breathing. Not her weapon. Not yet, because the rescue hadn't started. Not yet, but soon. The black well had gone quiet for a heartbeat. Then it detonated into chaos. Sergeant Rhea Halden shoved General Rydell behind the Vaskir 11 turret, grabbed the steel handles, and unleashed hell. 50 caliber rounds tore through stone, wood, and bone. The fortress, once carved into the cliffs like a tomb, erupted into screams and smoke. She moved the barrel with clinical precision left sweep. Hold, fire, right arc. Pressure burst. Every bullet counted. Every second bought them breath. Then click. The belt was dry. "We're out," she yelled. "Move now." They sprinted. Bullets hissed past like vipers in the dark. Dust kicked up. Rhea felt a round slice through her sleeve. Another cracked stone inches from her heel. But she didn't stop. She and Rydell reached the narrow trail along the western cliff, a goat path carved by erosion and ghosts. Climbing was agony. Each handhold crumbled, each foothold shifted. Rydell grunted behind her, cut across the brow but moving. Below, flashlights swept, voices screamed. They were being hunted. Then came the whump. RPG incoming. Rhea grabbed Rydell, slammed them against the wall. The blast hit 20 feet below. Rock shards flew like razors. One opened her arm. She didn't feel it. They had 100 feet left. Maybe 10 minutes? They didn't have 10 minutes. She made the call that would haunt her or save them. Pulled out her last fragmentation grenade. Held it like a heartbeat. "When I throw this, you climb," she told him. "Don't look back. Don't stop." Rydell looked at her, eyes full of something between disbelief and reverence. But he nodded. Rhea pulled the pin, counted 1, 2, 3, and let it fly. The blast lit the canyon like a second sun. In the smoke and confusion, they climbed, desperate, silent, slipping, scrambling, and then they broke the rim. The first rays of dawn painted the rock gold. Rydell collapsed, wheezing, bleeding but alive. Rhea dropped beside him, checked for injuries, then turned, and in one silent motion, she pulled Mason's rifle sling from her arm, laid it gently on the rock, didn't say a word, didn't need to. It was the last thing she had of him, and she left it there like a marker, a goodbye, down below. The rebels scrambled, but they'd lost the canyon, and now rotors, the sound of cavalry ripping through morning silence, rescue birds breaking the sky wide open. Rydell looked at her, eyes glassy from blood loss and awe. "The army owes you a medal." Rhea didn't smile. She looked back once toward the wreckage. The smoke, the path of fire and silence she'd crawled through alone. "No," she said quietly. "Just write down." Martinez cleared the line. The mission ended at sunrise, but the ghost who brought him home walked into shadow.